Today I wanted to speak to you about the COVID-19 disease, also known as coronavirus. It is an infectious disease caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus. According to the CDC, over 40 million people have been reported with this disease, and there have been over 680,000 deaths from this disease. And just to give you some background of what this virus looks like, here is the virus. And so, what makes this disease so contagious and deadly? So, let's start by discussing the immune system. So, the immune system is very important for the control of most viral infections, and the immune system is composed of three phases, which consist of innate immunity, which is the first line of defense against infection and occurs immediately around 0 to 4 hours of infection. The second is the early induced response, which occurs 4 to 96 hours after infection and is responsible for the recruitment of effector cells. And then the last phase is the adaptive immunity, which occurs if the innate immunity and early induced response cannot eliminate the pathogen. And just to provide a background of these immunities as well as its components, here they are. So for some patients, innate immunity can eliminate the virus and induce early induced response, which increases an influx of phagocytic cells to the site of infection. It also is responsible for antiviral cytokines, which are secreted by various host cells in response to a virus infection. If that innate immunity is unable to eliminate the pathogen, however, an adaptive immune response occurs and calls for dendritic cells to migrate to local draining lymph nodes carrying pathogen antigens. Macrophages, neutrophils, and natural killer cells are also used during an adaptive immune response. B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes, such as CD4 plus and CD8 plus expressing T cells, are created, and cytokines, chemokines, and complements also play an important role during adaptive immunity. CD4 plus T cells possess a range of helper and effector functionalities. CD8 plus T cells kill infected cells, and antibodies are created too. So the antibodies' role is to bind to the virus particles and block them from binding to the host cells, which prevents infection. So antibodies activate two kinds of cellular effectors during adaptive immunity. One of them is the Th1 cell, which is responsible for activating macrophages, and the other is the cytotoxic T cell. And the cytotoxic T cells are killer lymphocytes that can specifically recognize an infected host cell through an antigen displayed on the surface of the cell. And here is a figure that has the major components of adaptive immunity and viral immune responses. And so an effective innate immunity has been strongly associated with the failure to control a primary SARS-CoV-2 infection and is linked to fatal outcomes. So the SARS-CoV-2 virus is particularly effective at avoiding or delaying triggering intracellular innate immune responses in humans. Without these responses, the virus initially replicates strongly, and the adaptive immune responses are not primed until the innate immune alarm occurs. In an average case of the COVID-19 infection, a simple model is that temporal delay in innate immune response is enough to result in asymptomatic infection. So around 40% of SARS-CoV-2 infections are asymptomatic. So here is a representation of these type of infection and how T cell and antibodies respond quickly to control the infection. So a delay in the innate immune response could be caused by efficient evasion by the virus, defective innate immunity, or a combination of both. And this allows for the virus to get a huge head start in replication in the upper respiratory tract and lungs, as well as fail to prime an adaptive immune response for a long time. And these factors can be amplified by challenges such as age, because with higher age, individuals have a smaller naive T cell count and less coordinated adaptive immune response. Lastly, this figure is a representation of severe SARS-2 infection, and here during adaptive immune response, we see that the viral burden is high and there is a small T cell count.